Ukraea, semi-permanent modern furniture for your wartime budget that you put together, and by our patrons and supporters. If you like what Book of Hours is presenting, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours or join Rockfin at rockfin.com/bookofhours. You can also make a one-time donation with Cash App or use PayPal at paypal.me/bookofhours. Thank you. Hey,
Hey
we're
guys,
back.
how are you?
And for another monthly edition of Bookmark.
Right?
Yeah. Well, we didn't do an audio podcast footnote last week because Julie was out of town, and we figured that instead of doing that this week, that we would do a bookmark and kind of cover both. And because Bookmark is free, and we can probably, what I was thinking is turning this into an audio and turning it into a footnote for this week. So
yeah, we could do that as well.
Yeah.
So we have our Bookmark podcast, which is every like once a month, every 2 weeks, which is what you see here. And it's a pod, so it's the two of us just rapping, talking about stuff that matters. And then our Footnote podcast is just an audio. It's no video, and it's a little bit more condensed and concentrated on specific subject matters. And it's a little bit more organized. This particular pod is a little more freewheeling, right?
yeah, especially today's show.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up our wow, where is it? Chat. There we go.
Right. So if you're having trouble like hearing us, please let us know. If you're having trouble with connectivity, if you are experiencing a delay, or there's any issue with the pod today, please let us know, because we are working with sort of limited internet.
Our connection's a little slower today.
Our connection's a little bit slower today. Limited internet range. So hopefully things will work out and we won't need to start over.
So I want to say hello to our friends and followers on Rockfin, and we seem to be okay on Rockfin.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So hello, Rockfin. Hello to all our friends and followers and patrons on Patreon, our friends on Facebook and on YouTube. We seem to be holding on
still holding on by a thread.
by our fingernails.
It's probably because we are so incredibly censored and squelched that they've done everything that they could. The powers that be on social media have done everything that they could to make sure that we are not heard, not recognized, totally ignored. And anybody who does pay attention to us, we want to just recognize you and thank you for your support and your attention. It's really what keeps us going. There's so little recognition for what we do and how we present, because it's so different than what everybody else is doing and saying and how they're presenting, that we really want to recognize the people that do appreciate us. It's hard for me to multitask. I'm doing like 14 things at once because unlike some pods, I don't have a secretary.
Right, or a producer. So we are the producers.
Right.
So, well, let me just, while you're doing that, I can talk a little bit about right now, some things that we're working on. I actually finished a script that I didn't really rewrite it. I'm calling it The Reason Redux. And I started with the premise of like adding on to the video that we produced earlier in the year called The Reason. And it's about the reason for all the deaths and why people are, I mean, not the reason, but like the reason that we're not given a reason for all the deaths. And I went into more along the lines of what Edward Dowd has been reporting on and talking about that. But, taking that and taking the more, philosophical or cultural approach to the subject that we tend to do. So we don't focus on facts and figures because we don't need to. There's plenty of other people out there doing that. Our job is to interpret and to analyze and then to comment on what's going on in the world. And so we either do it through these types of broadcasts that you're watching right now, or we do it through creative work. And so those of you who've been following us know that. For those of you who are finding us for the first time, that's how we approach things. And so you'll approach it with more of an artistic level, more creative level in our video essays and sketchbook pieces. And then sometimes Julie will do, and me too, we'll do pieces that we call blurbs, which are like, maybe less than 5 minutes long or, up to 10 minutes long. So, we have different sizes of content. The sketchbook and then the essays are longer pieces.
Right.
Yeah. So I like the long format. That's why I don't fit well on TikTok.
I know, right?
Yeah, and then I have to reformat for Instagram, so I just never put it out on there anymore. I just hate it. It's
yeah. I think we're video essayists, which means that the formats that TikTok and Instagram have are for. It doesn't fit
influencers.
it doesn't fit who we are. Think of us as like Adam Curtis. He's a former BBC documentarian who kind of branched out on his own, and he takes these really interesting philosophical approaches to like culture and politics and what's happening in the world.
And ties a lot of different things
together very creatively. And he's a video essayist. And there's no way that TikTok or something like Instagram would work for him. I mean, it'd be like going to a movie, a 2-hour movie in a theater and expecting to have the same kind of experience on TikTok or Instagram with that. It's a completely different,
or watching the trailer and thinking you saw the movie.
Right. It's a completely different kind of experience. So that's why we stick to these platforms that we have right now. We're still kicking it on Facebook and YouTube. Well, they haven't kicked us off yet.
I was, I know, right? I was working in a smaller format, like especially like on Instagram, it's like a square, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
you have as opposed to being,
but I was working in that originally and having some success, but I tend to prefer the longer format or the long form writing and content to the shorter pieces, and it's hard. Actually, it's harder to create those shorter pieces than it is the longer ones, for me anyway, because you have to think of it like poetry. You have to be like if you're working the way that we do, it's almost like what we're doing is making a film or a painting as opposed to writing a poem, especially or like a haiku, which is like, that's how I see like Instagram or TikTok for us. Now, most people it's just junk, right? But I mean, I see it as like poetry requires a precision in what you're saying and how you say it, and that's how I approached my earlier Instagram pieces. They were less than they have to be less than a certain period of time, like 60 minutes or something, or 60 seconds. I mean, and so you have to fit your idea into that small kernel of time. And
we're video essayists. Yeah. We can't expect an essay, which is like an hour to an hour and a half it's too nuanced. Yeah. Like there's too much information. So
I don't think we've ever done an hour and a half one. We've done these things are hour and a half, but
bookmarks can be.
But our essays are probably up to an hour. Yeah.
We reel it, but our video essays are actual scripts where we write it out. So I want to say thank you to one person in particular who, besides you, who
Okay.
have been kind of a comfort to me over the last few hours. I wanted to say thank you to Pi Ian and just give him a nod.
I want to say, yeah,
You
that's
know,
that. Yeah, thank
so-
you. Yeah, and I also want to thank Andrea. Thank you for your support. She's one of the people that help us out with the donation here and there. So thank you to you.
Yeah,
Thank
it worked
you
out.
to you.
It worked out, Andrea.
Yeah.
So thank you for that so much.
Yeah.
And we received a small donation the other day
On PayPal.
on PayPal. So I want to thank where are you? Lydia Parrish.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that as well. So Pi Ian, thank you. You know what I'm thanking you for. Andrea Greenberg, thank you so much for your donation, and Lydia Parrish for yours as well.
Yeah. And thank you to all our patrons, like I said at the beginning, and all of you who are members of Rockfin, who pay your $10 a month to access all the premium content on Rockfin, the entire site of Rockfin for $10 a month. You can access premium content. So thanks to all you folks too. That's great. Thank you. All right.
So what do we want to?
And if you're on Rockfin watching, there's a tip jar. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we haven't really been able to convert. I think it's Ethereum, right?
Yeah, we have to convert our Rockfin money into Ethereum, and then Ethereum to dollars.
So if you paid us through Rockfin, we haven't actually seen
we're getting there.
The money from that, not because of Rockfin, but because we just haven't figured out how to convert it yet.
Yeah. So
it's on us. It's totally on us.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do we want to get into first? I kind of feel like we should talk about Ukraine, Russia stuff.
That's on top of mind, I guess. Yeah.
Ease into this other heavier stuff.
One of our sponsors for the show today is Ukraine. Design furniture at a wartime budget that you put together. So yeah, it's a clusterfuck and all that, but let's get into some of the nuances that we wanted to talk about.
So I think Petraeus, which we should all know who Petraeus is, David Petraeus. He is the former director of the CIA. Made a statement recently. If I can find it, he a couple of weeks ago, I think he was quoted as saying Putin is desperate and this is an irreversible situation. I don't agree with that at all. He is saying that the U.S. would destroy Russia's troops if Putin uses nuclear weapons in Ukraine. So he's basically saber rattling, which is what he does. And which is what they all do. And, we have to go back to something that Biden had said from the very beginning, which is that, we're not getting involved.
Right. We're not, our troops are not going in there. I mean, he said it in a speech.
I mean, it's so silly
regarding this. And I think that part of the problem is that Petraeus is really jumping the gun, because if nuclear arms would be used, they would be used against us, not Ukraine. That would be like bombing out your backyard with something really toxic, because Moscow isn't that far from Kiev, right? I mean, if you're talking nuclear bombs and fallout and stuff, I mean, they'd basically be bombing themselves. So that's just a stupid thing to say in the first place. In the second place is that Petraeus is basically he's saber rattling because it means that he will probably get a good payoff if there's a land war in Europe, because he's part of the military industrial complex, and he's a consultant or some sort of on the payroll person with some of these think tanks and organizations. I think he works directly for a company that's owned by Raytheon. I don't remember what the connection was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I heard this earlier, and you can look it up. I mean, it's easy to look up this stuff. So, one of the things you have to always take into consideration, and something that we do when we hear things like this, is we start looking up the person and seeing like what their connections are.
Which is what I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, it's like an easy Google search. And I'm just fuck it, use Google on this in this case.
Because I think everybody at this point, no matter what side of history you're on in general, understands that wars are for profit.
Oh yeah.
And you got the saber rattling.
Well, I would hope so.
Everyone's critical of the saber rattling, whether you are even pro-war people are critical of it. Everybody knows.
Well,
everybody knows.
So something that we say a lot, and you have to remember, is that the United States was founded as a military, fiscal military state, right? We are a, and I would also say that we're a corporate spinoff of England. From the time of the Revolutionary War, we were the company that waged war on the world. Okay, I mean we're the outpost. We're an outpost for military conquest, or not conquest. It wasn't original. I don't think it was originally intended to be an empire building country. It is a corporation. The United States is a corporation,
right?
And it was for it was that idea of dry powder markets and things like that, where you invest in something in order to gain profit from any sort of warfare or anything like that. So that's why the United States has probably had maybe a total of 10 years of its entire 250-year existence not at war. right. And so war is what has pushed the economy of the United States since its inception. So
I also feel like
I'm always surprised that people are surprised.
Right. I feel like the conflict, I don't know much about this. You know a little bit more about it. You brought it up before, like last year at some point. The conflict with Russia and Ukraine goes back all the way back to the Orange Revolution.
Well, so we can point to the Orange Revolution, but probably even before that, because Russia and Ukraine have been intertwined since like 1,000 years practically, right? But if you come up to the present time, there was a revolution, and a color revolution that took place, and I'm sure that the United States was behind. It was in 2004, and there was an election that took place between a president who was very similar to the current, not ours, but their current president. Liberal, globalist, if you may. I rarely use that word, but sort of that that type of leadership, neoliberal.
Corporate interests,
and ties to globalist policy or globalization, and another guy that was more like a Trump type of character. So we had basically two and they both
two victors.
Yeah, two victors. They were Viktor Yushchenko and Viktor Yanukovych. And Yanukovych,
I'm sure a lot of people know this too already.
Yeah, well, the thing is, we interviewed somebody. I won't mention her name. You can go back to our shows called.
You're gonna get us in trouble.
Well, we're already in trouble.
I know that's true, right?
This person has shunned us.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not going to mention her name, but you can go back to one of our shows. God, what's the name of that show? Bookmark show. No, this is Bookmark. Pull quote show. And she was talking about Ukraine.
And then you talked about the color revolution.
And I asked her about the color revolution in 2004. And she didn't know anything about it, but she's reporting as if she knows, about Ukraine and the current situation. It's like, well, but what happened in 2004 is directly in line and related to what's taking place now.
I remember it. I was 33 at the time. So that would have been over 17 years ago, right?
Yeah. So, I'm not going to get into this, but, this is,
maybe 17 years ago she was only like 12.
But I know
So she
about
wouldn't
things.
know.
I know about things that took. I mean, I was younger when Watergate happened, and I know about Watergate, and I know about
Right.
shit that happened, in other countries on behalf of the United States.
Mhm.
So anyway.
I
So
like how you're like, we're already in trouble. I know. It's like we're
so
constantly
so
being
fuck it.
attacked.
It's like
Mhm.
we've already been shunned by this person, and we get attacked by her followers, and fuck that.
Mhm.
So, and I didn't even like really call her out on
Punk
it.
over here.
Whatever,
Mhm.
fuck it.
Mhm.
I didn't even call her out on it.
It's a
I
good
was just
attitude,
asking her about it because I wanted to find out her perspective on that and how she saw it fitting together. And she didn't know a goddamn thing. Okay. That wasn't the point of what I was going to talk about today. I was just going to say that,
there's history
there's
there
history
that
there.
goes all the way back to 2004, if not
Well,
before.
I think
like
that what's
thousands
going
of
on right
years.
now directly correlates because Putin
Mhm.
was a political entity back then,
Mhm.
as he is now,
Mhm.
and Ukraine was a shit show then, as it is now. And the United States had its hands in the pot, as they did then. They do now.
$80 billion
right
sent to Ukraine.
in weaponry and cash, right?
Mhm.
And so.
Oh, and probably marketing and media stuff.
Well, sure, of course.
Mhm.
And the thing is that Biden's pussy ass way of dealing with this. He's like, well, he's basically coming out and saying this is a proxy war and we will not be involved with it directly, right? And so he wants to wage war without actually like waging war, which is just such a
that's America.
it's the current way of making war in America, right?
Yeah.
Proxy wars in Yemeni and
Mhm.
proxy wars
Yeah.
in Syria and and all these other places too, and so these all take place, and people, the thing that pisses me off is the people that are always saying, oh, let's pray for peace, oh peace, oh peace, especially the liberals who are like peace, 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 but yet they'll still support the same goddamn people who fucking make the wars and the same system that makes the war. This country was built on making war to make a profit, and people don't get that. And that's the thing. This idea of like peace, like saying we should be at peace when this country is a corporation for making war. It makes money from war. Period. And so, what for us to like say, oh, well, there should be peace is disingenuous because we live in a country that's responsible for probably more war and famine and degradation of the planet than anyone else in the world, and yet we're the ones that are calling out China for their misbehavior. We're the ones that are calling out Russia for its misbehavior and all these other countries, and we use these things as bludgeons to say, oh, human rights, when we have one of the largest prison populations in the entire world, and we use that prison population as slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And we created and not me personally, but our system has created a situation that puts impoverished people, especially impoverished people of color, into a situation to where they are fed into the system that gets them into the prison system whole cloth, right? Oh, your taillight is out. I'm pulling you over for violation of your taillight being out. Well, this person probably can't afford the ticket to pay for that. And so what happens is it snowballs and turns into a situation where they're put into prison because they can't afford to pay a $15 ticket to fix their taillight while they're trying to go to their 7-Eleven job. I'm sorry, their third 7-Eleven job in order to pay, to qualify for welfare. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about, so that these people get put into a system that costs them even more money because now they're paying off, whatever they owe the courts and the various violations beyond what they incurred in that little taillight violation, and they become slaves of the state. And they're making Starbucks cups
or
for 2 cents on the hour, for 2 cents a dollar, or McDonald's uniforms, or whatever else. So yeah, yay, we're bringing products, manufacturing back to the United States through the prison system.
Through the prison system, exactly.
Okay, that was a tangent I didn't even intend to get into.
No, it's okay, because we freewheel it on Bookmark, so that's, you have to go where you're led to go.
Yeah, well,
and clearly that needed to be said, because right now I think what's really unique and different about this, although people might disagree with me, and I would welcome that disagreement, of course, is that it feels odd to be flirting with and discussing this saber rattling and possible nuclear war agenda in the middle of a financial, well, what they're telling us is a financial crisis.
Mhm.
I mean, can't we just deal with one thing at a time? I mean,
yeah.
you know,
because I'm trying to mute this. Sorry.
so turn your thing
Yeah,
on. There you
okay.
go. So we're dealing with what's going on?
I just wanted to see if there was any chat. We can't see the chat from Rockfin, so yeah.
Oh, okay.
And in fact, there's no chats going on, so I'm not sure if anybody's watching us right now.
Well, our who knows if our stream is even working?
Oh, it says we have 4 people watching, but I think 2 of those people are us.
I think we have a few more watching. I think we have a few more people than that, because whenever we go back to look at it, we get a lot more viewers than that. So I don't think that number is correct, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it seems weird to me that we are going through this idea of talking about nuclear war when we're in the middle of other issues,
and
that are right here at home, that need to be addressed.
I want to piggyback on that with 2 things.
Mm.
One is from 2 different podcasters that we've been listening to, and I won't identify them because I don't need to promote their channel. The one was that basically the idea that the zero interest rates that have been going on since W's age, okay, so since like the turn of the 20th into the 21st century, with President
I'm not doing it. I'm just, we're not, I don't think we are streaming. We are streaming. Yeah. Oh, I don't know why I can't see it.
Well, we're streaming. I'm watching us right now.
Right. So how did you get to that point?
I use the app.
Aren't I on the app?
I don't know. This is a really disjointed bookmark, and
sorry guys.
It started out kind of a shitty day, so I apologize for my attitude. But anyway,
it's not your fault.
No, I won't go into that either. So somebody was talking about how with the low interest rates that we've been dealing with since the last 20 something years, 22 years. We've been at zero interest rate for a long period of time through the Fed, through the federal bank, or the Fed, Federal Reserve Bank, and that has encouraged wars that have been waged. This sort of what do they call it? Adventurism, something like that. And causing wars, so we have Iran, Iraq, Syria. We didn't go after Iran, but they want to. Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen. I said Yemeni earlier. I meant Yemen.
No, that's okay.
The Yemeni people, and now Ukraine, and we were in Libya, all that, right? So all that is a result of having money because of low interest rates and being able to mount campaigns like that, because the financing for something like that is so low. How can we do it? Low interest rates, and on the backs of the American people as well. Now with interest rates going up, this pundit seemed to think that at higher interest rates that there will be less adventurism, wartime adventurism, as a result of not being able to mount a campaign because you can't afford it.
There you go.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody in the world is going to be able to afford it, because when the American Federal Reserve Bank does something, the rest of the world tends to do that as well. And they're, I'm sure they're all connected. But anyway, so that was a very interesting observation that I thought was worth mentioning. The other thing that I wanted to mention was that China and Russia have been able to, for the last 20 years or so, develop technology that is in the form of unmanned submarines, and they have basically tracked the magnetic field of the underwater or the oceans, right?
Mhm.
And so they were able to have submarine technology using the mapping of the magnetic fields of the ocean to navigate their drone technology, right? These submarines. It was brought to my attention through this discussion that the weapons on some of these submarines that the Russians are floating around. He called it a doomsday device, and basically what it is it's a blast, a nuclear blast that would create a tsunami wave that was radioactive. So not only do you wipe out, so if you and Russia has come out and said these cities are targeted. One of them is New York City, and the other one is Philadelphia, and I'm sure there's other ones. I'm sure San Francisco is targeted by the Chinese, as well as LA and Seattle. And so that you could have a catastrophe worse than what was that a few years back, the
Starts with an F.
Francis, or
you mean the hurricane?
the hurricane in New York.
Well, let's see. We just had Hurricane Ian.
Yeah,
and then the one before that was Hurricane. I forget.
Yeah, I forget the name, but it's not coming to me. But it took place about 10 years ago, I guess, maybe. And
Hurricane Fiona.
No. Fiona.
Okay.
I know all these names. It's ridiculous. But anyway, so you guys know. And so think of that times, I don't know, 1,000 or whatever, a tsunami wave. And not only is it a tsunami wave that then hits a big metropolitan community like that, it also leaves then, nuclear waste behind, right? So you have I just had the word a moment ago. I'm getting so distracted with this. It's so frustrating. So, basically we have an atomic generated wave. I mean, it just sounds like Dr. Evil, it's
going to get worse.
Do those sharks have lasers on them? Because I want those sharks to have lasers, right?
Right.
So not only is it a tsunami wave, I mean, it's radioactive. That's the word I'm thinking of, right? So, this is, and so what happens then? I mean, then we send ICBMs to, these other countries. So, and so people, I don't think are really getting it that, what Russia is threatening is not an ICBM that we might be able to shoot down. They're threatening something like really fucking serious. And then I don't know if what Putin was talking about a few years back with his missiles that can like reach the United States in 2 minutes.
There's any truth to that?
If there's any truth to that or not, but you remember that when he made that speech?
I remember.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right. So those are two things that I heard recently that I think are relevant to this. But because I'm like blathering on.
No, you're not blathering on, JP. You're talking about stuff that.
But there's no cohesion to what I'm trying to put together with everything that we're talking about.
People get it. You're repeating something that's really important, especially about what you had said about China and Russia being able to work together.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of people talking about how, like Naomi Wolf is talking about how she thinks that China's responsible for, the plague that we're all dealing with through the shots. And I don't think that it's actually a nationalist, like state sponsored thing necessarily. I think that the war that's being waged currently is a war being waged on normal people, on citizens of countries. I don't think it's a direct threat from China on the United States. I think the Chinese are part of at least the leadership of of China are part of the leaderships of other countries that are working together to get rid of the rest of us.
Mm-hmm. There you go. It seems like the most important thing to focus on. And it almost feels like everything that is being discussed is a distraction from that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of posturing coming out of Russia and China and the United States and Ukraine and everything. And it feels, and the Fed, because Jamie Dimon is just going on and on and on too. He's another one where he's just posturing like, we're going to do this, we're going to take away jobs to, I guess, balance out the economy or something.
Right.
Like
yeah.
that.
So we were talking about that a few weeks ago.
He's threatening that pensions are next. Right now, the UK is seeing their pensions are affected. And so a lot of this feels like a big distraction.
My 401k just got hollowed out. I mean, I lost $4,000 in 1 month. I know, but it's like that's kind of, for my pitiful little shit of a an investment. It's getting just stomped on. And I think this is trounced. That's the word. And everybody's experiencing that. And, we were talking, like Cory Morningstar was talking about this in regard to, green investment. I brought this up many times. So these green investments that are taking money from pensions, like the Teachers Association pensions and things like that, these union pensions, this money is being, allocated towards, other technologies that are not proven, and they're just going to get hollowed out and taken, just sucked dry. And I forget who it was, a while ago, I heard that they were talking about how the pensions that exist now the money was being used long ago to fund, other types of investments or making basically Wall Street people rich. And now they can't pay it back. And so that's why there's money being lost in these pensions. And so there's really nothing that anybody can do. The governments don't have any money. They've been the ones that are rating these things. Right. So they've been borrowing money from us, and now they don't have it to pay back. And so everybody's going to lose their retirement, basically.
Right.
So lots of cheery news today on Bookmark. I have to say, I wish I had some better news to talk about.
Yeah, and I'm not sure we're getting the feed. Can you really quickly find us on Rockfin?
I already did.
Yeah, I don't know if we're really.
We're there.
That's
live.
This hasn't moved. It's been.
Let me turn up my volume because it'll tell us.
Yeah, it's like an easy Google search.
See, we're way behind.
Use Google on this.
See?
Because I think everybody.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
Well, I'm ready to just shut this off because I have nothing else to really say. But
I think that it's because of our bad connection up here. So, but we'll get through it. I think that unless you want to just stop and start over, you want to do that, and we'll just pick up. We'll let this run out, and then we'll pick up with our new subject that we really wanted to talk about, and we'll focus on that. So we'll have what you've just witnessed is part 1, and then we'll sign out and come back on.
Why not?
Yeah. So this was part 1. We're going to log out and get a better connection, and we'll be right back. Okay.
Thanks.
Bookmark is made possible by our patrons and supporters. You can help us continue our work by becoming a patron at patreon.com/bookofhours. Join Rockfin or leave us a tip at rockfin.com/bookofhours, or leave us a one-time donation at paypal.me/bookofhours. Or you can use Cash App. Thank you.